The following video is based upon true crime content. Therefore, it may contain images and/or language that some find disturbing. For this reason, viewer discretion is advised. Welcome back in, everyone. Just wanted to go over really quickly what we watched previously in regards to Courtney Clenny's preliminary hearing from November of 2022. On day 2 of the hearing, her father came up on the stand and he went through all of her expenses, because one of the biggest deals for them during this hearing was to try to get Courtney out on bail. So they had to justify where her money had gone. They had to prove that all of the money that she had was locked up into something else, or she didn't have a bunch of free spending money to be a flight risk if they were to let her out on bail. So let's listen into what Dad says, and we're going to break this down for you.
Kim Clenny.
And how do you know Courtney?
I'm her father.
At some point in time, were wire transfers made to an account that you have?
Yes.
And generally, around what time was that?
Mid-April and then early May. There were 3 total.
Now, can you explain to us?
Okay, so mid-April, he passed away on April the 3rd, just to give you guys a timeline.
Well, she'd been traumatized for quite some time, but especially after April 3rd. And then she was drinking heavily.
Okay.
Oh, he admits she was drinking heavily.
And let's talk about those transfers that were made to you.
The first wires were on April 12th of this year.
April 12th.
There was one wire for $121,000, one wire for $1,013,000, and then subsequently in May there was a $50,000 wire as well.
Damn. That's $1,183,000 that was transferred over to her parents.
Let's talk about the expenditures that were made from that $1,184,000.
So one reason why I wanted to take control of the account, because I needed CPA to finish her income taxes. And so that was the first big expense. And I got a cashier's check. I was the purchaser, but she was the remitter. And it was for $335,818. She decided to buy a house.
Okay. And this house is located close to you?
She had a contract on the other side of town, and then another house came available closer to us. And so then she put it off on that house.
And how much was the purchase price of the home?
And purchase price was $1.35 million.
And what was the amount that was paid into as far as closing costs and escrow?
The first check on May 17th was for $21,000, and that was $20,000 escrow for their first house and a $1,000 non-refundable option fee. The second cashier's check was for $10,000 additional when she put the offer on the new house. It was for $356,226.45.
What makes you qualified to handle the finances of Courtney?
And I have a finance degree, and I spent 15 years as an investment advisor.
Were there any costs associated with Courtney moving from Miami back home to Texas?
Yes. There were 2 major expenditures, but there were multiple expenditures in those 2 areas. The first was moving out of the condo, the liquidated rent, cleaning, painting, things like that for the condo, attorney's fees. That was $26,885. And then there was reimbursement to me for hotels and travel, as far as, movers, rental for truck, things like that. That was $30,074.
Now,
did a large portion of the funds belonging to Courtney go to her defense of this case?
Yes.
She also went to rehab at some point?
Yes.
And how much was that?
The airfare and the rehab itself totaled $35,497.
Now, I'm sure that's not all the expenditures. Can you just give a general description of some of the other items?
There was $15,702 that went to some mortgage payments for the new house. Then she bought some assorted furniture, $12,072. And then there were some significant veterinarian bills, and that was $5,008. And beyond that, then you have the normal living expenses, daily living expenses, and then normal household expenses, electricity, utilities, things like that.
I have a feeling that expense having to do with the Miami apartment was pretty much all the damages that they had caused, or Courtney had caused, while they had lived there. Because remember, we've got a Vegas hotel that was completely trashed by them and in a very short period of time. All right, in the numbers he's disclosed here, we have $848,282. That leaves $335,000 for the non-disclosed item, which he said were attorney fees. So, does that make sense? Probably does. Probably does.
Do you have any knowledge of any other assets that Courtney has, such as stocks or bonds, other homes, boats, cars?
She has nothing other than the house.
Then we watched as they questioned the medical examiner who explained how Christian died, where the injury was exactly. There was no doubt, according to him, that it was a stab wound, and he did not believe that it was thrown, but he said he was also not a knife expert. Do y'all hear Huckleberry? Now, the defense tried to really push that whole knife throwing thing. Because remember, they have to go with this theory because that's what Courtney Clenny told the detectives in her original interrogation the day of the incident. I cannot say that the defense did any good in proving that the knife was a thrown knife versus, somebody was stabbing him. They brought up that she had no cuts on her hand, but, from the cases that I've seen, the reason that somebody might get a lot of cuts on their hand is when they're stabbing repeatedly. This was one stab. So I don't want to get too gross into that, but I did want to bring that up to you guys. So today we're going to watch the rest of the day. There's probably another good 2 hours left here for us to watch tonight. So let's get to it.